Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Tonight I'm gonna talk about something a little different, a little military. This is about the USS Independence. The USS Independence was back then. It was the oldest ship in the fleet. It still had the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. The early '90s, and I was a greenhorn during this time in my naval career. I hopped on that ship from San Diego, North Island, and we were heading to Japan via Hawaii. I remember those days. I was so excited being on the ship for the first time. I really didn't know what was going on. I was in a VS-21, although I have a HS-14 shirt on. I don't have a VS-21 shirt. Lost it. Everything was exciting. Everything was new. There was 5,500 sailors on board. All were men back then. Over half the crew was brand new. So it was kind of hectic. Everybody trying to learn the ropes. Hardcore veterans were having a hard time training the new guys like us. But looking back at it, it was really a good time. Out of all the ships I've been in the Navy, I've been on 3 aircraft carriers. And this was the most fun. We hit a lot of ports. Me being a recruit from the PI, used to be a farm boy, and now I was on a US Navy aircraft carrier. Can't beat that, I guess. Oh yeah, by the way, I just want to tell everybody that this is a paranormal niche video, so it's gotta be kind of different. From my experiences while I was on that ship, and there was a lot, but the only thing that would hinder my experiences or any things that I would see or hear was the noise, because on any Navy ship, I think most of the aircraft carriers, because it was always so noisy. So I may be caught or have seen maybe only 10-20% of what I usually see. And this was coming from when I was a kid. I did see apparitions, and on throughout my life I've seen it. And now these are my stories. So, okay, let's start out. We left North Island on the way to Japan, but we were going to do a stopover in Hawaii. 7 days from leaving San Diego, there was a sudden call for a fire. And on the 1MC, the announcement came out, and I guess the CDO or the guy on the 1MC was a homeboy. I know you guys know homeboy. I'm one of them. And it was actually a Filipino guy on the 1MC. And then he put out something like this. It was fire, 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 fire. Compartment 1, Tac 2, Tac something like that. Fire in the Lux Farm. Well, the pronunciation was perfect. I mean, it was all right. But the diction was with a very heavy accent on the Filipino side. So nobody understood the announcement. It was an emergency. This was a big thing on the ship. You know, you got to be clear on what you say. That way you're understood. And then somebody needs to react to an emergency. You got to be quick about it. So another guy goes on the 1MC and announces the correct way or the understandable way. So everybody dashes down. And then, if I'm not mistaken, also, I remember it was general quarters. So I said that this is my first battle station. So right after that call for the fire, there was a call for battle stations. The fire was in the LOX farm, the liquid oxygen farm, where oxygen is made for aircraft crews. And I know one guy passed on because of that fire, and it was actually the farm manager for the liquid oxygen. The rumor was that he was caught smoking, or he was smoking in the Lox farm, and liquid oxygen, as we all know, is highly flammable. So that I was coming from O3 back then because on the O3 level, it was right on top of the Lox farm. New guy, didn't know what the hell was going on. And I was grabbed by a fire team and became a member of the hose line. And that was my experience on that. So moving forward, after a couple of weeks, that before hitting Japan, everything was already prepared good. I mean, the crew of that ship was real good. I mean, the ship itself was a real old piece of you know what, but the crew was something different. I mean, out of all the ships I've been in my career, the crew of the USS Independence was the best, the most motivated, highly trained, exemplary. I mean, in any operation we had, I mean, we relied on this crew as working on. I was working on the flight deck most of the times, but the whole ship relied on this crew, and they were great. I know you guys are still out there, and coming from an Airedale, I know we didn't see things all the same way on that ship back then. Hey, that was 40 years ago, and it might be too late, but I do appreciate you guys. Okay, and then going back to the story, I would usually go to the Lux Farm, go to AIMD, aircraft repair shops there, because I was part of a squadron. We would need to repair some aircraft parts or have something done. I usually go down there, and that guy that perished during that fire was still there. And I did see him more than a couple times, but he didn't bother me or anything. This is the thing though, he'd be just outside that Lux farm in a chair, and he would just be sitting there. And guess what he was doing? Guess what he was doing? He was just chilling, hanging out, watching people, and just smoking. So he's chilling out. I hope that guy truly rests in peace. So that's one sighting I had. Okay, the P-Way. Remember the part of the galley had a long P-Way, passageway? And I was, it was like 0300, 0400. I was just walking around taking a break. I think they had flight ops because I usually go on the flight deck while I was working in the hangar bay to take a break. But I think this time they had flight ops. So I decided to take a walk, usually go through the hangar bay and down the stairs to the galley and walk that P-Way. Nobody was there walking the P-Way that night. This is the part where, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? Talking port side, that straight P-Way, and then you hit the medical. Medical's right there. You pass the medical right before you get to the where the Marines were berthed downstairs from there. That had that big red grill gate. Right before the, of course, the forward galley. It was between the Marine gate and medical. So right there on the left side, there was a porthole there into the next level down. I was just walking by, and it was dark. It was dark. Somebody or something grabbed my behind, and it was that I emphasize a deep grab. Okay, so let me explain. You know, a pat's a pat, just a pat like that, and then a grab is like that, but a deep grab. I mean, so deep that it would grab my right behind and real deep. And you know how if you grab something real deep in that area, my right behind, you actually hit something with your two fingers. I mean, that deep. And I was like, what was that? I turned around, of course, and I looked, and there was this big guy. I'm a homeboy, so I'm a short guy. And this guy was big. I mean, he was in full battle gear, kind of had a funny helmet on, uh, just standing there with his M16 and kind of in the dark. But I looked up to him like that. He was that big. So that's 6.5 feet, I'd say, already. And he just didn't have an expression. And he just, like, out of the dark, he just leaned a little forward and looked at me. And I said, wow, I just, I want to say I took a swing. I can't remember. But thinking about it right now, I wouldn't. But maybe I did. I was a lot younger back then, a lot crazier. So I just stepped back, continued my route. Now, he looked like he was in the Marine uniform. It was kind of a different kind of camouflage, though. If I'm not mistaken, it was utility green. But he was in full battle dress. And I know for sure that he wasn't one of the Mardet guys. I'd say 16 or 20 Marines were on board back then. And I knew or would recognize each one of them. This guy, none of them were this big. This guy was a real big guy. And I never did see that apparition or that guy again. Never did see him again. So that's another one. Since I was one of the junior guys back then, I would be the guy to, of course, as we know, take the trash out. So I'd usually go to trash Sponson, which was uh, right amidship on the port side. There was a Sponson there, if I remember right. And another Sponson I'd usually go to, the smoking Sponson, when of course the smoking light was on. And that was on the starboard side in Hangar Bay 2. And both sponsons I would go to, the trash and the smoking sponson. The trash sponson would have a real old, I want to say first class. And it's funny because nobody was wearing white uniform back then, especially when we were aboard, because when, we were aboard, it would be a deployment. But there was this guy there. I want to say it was first class, whitish beard and whitish hair on sides and bald on top. And he would be wearing a Dixie cap. So that was kind of something different. And smoking. No, he wouldn't be smoking. He would have a pipe with him, and he'd just be sitting there by his sponsor. I would see that usually when I'd be working in Hangar Bay 2 and try to get some air because we would be working on the port side. And that's the only way to uh, get some air, fresh wind if all the hangar bay doors were closed. So I usually see that and I just ignore him. I just stand there and, you know, I wouldn't even look his way, although I'd see him. And I don't know, kind of, I like to say pay respect because those are one of us. Those are the guys that never left. So we're all kind of lucky that we did leave that ship, although we lost brothers there. And okay, the smoking Sponson was about the same thing. Some guy in the corner in the dark, because you guys remember how dark the smoking Sponson was. And he would be in that corner on the right side. And he would just be sitting there with his right leg up on the cable. And just, I don't know, what I remember now is a pipe, but I think he was smoking a long cigarette, just standing there. Yep, he was also in his whites, also. So those are one of our other brothers that would still hang out on our beloved ship. Much respect, much respect. Now, this is a really creepy one. Okay. Might be unbelievable to you guys that don't believe in this stuff, but I've seen it. Hangar Bay 2, port side. That's all supply area going down to the bowels of the ship. I usually go down there for pre-X, small spare parts for our squadron. No nuts, bolts, screws, washers, all that stuff. Because you had to go through a hole down 3 levels. And this hole, remember those nets they had? So you don't fall into the next hole or the next level or way down to the bowels of the ship. I would traverse that and go into a small compartment that had the supplies that I needed. So I'd usually be sent down there by my LPO. And it was something different. I mean, it was a net. So there was something that I saw that resembled a giant spider. I mean, it was just hanging out there by the net. And I didn't know if I was going to go back into this shop, in the compartment. There was somebody there. There was somebody. There was a supply guy, a homeboy that worked there. And I said, hey, I got time. I think I'll just hang out for a while. So I went back in the compartment and just talked to him. And I said, hey, man, you know, there's a fucking spider looking thing that hangs out here. And it's a homeboy, right? So, you know, he said, as superstitious as me. I mean, we're homeboys. We grew have the same background back in PI. And he said, yeah, man, there's a spider looking thing out there. But you say, did you say anything about it? He told me, like, what am I going to do about it? I said, well, I said, let me just hang out a little bit. Yeah. And he said, oh, yeah, that'll be gone a little bit. He's just scared, trying to scare us or something, man. So I just hung out. And then maybe like 10, 15 minutes, I BSing with this homeboy. I took a peek and it was gone. So I went up, went back to my shop. You know, I didn't tell anybody in my shop because nobody would believe me, right? Nobody would. So that's one of the stories I had. Crazy. Some Spider-Man on the indie, you know? Okay, I know you guys remember this. 1992, WOG Day. We were on our way to Sydney, Australia. Remember that time? Had a blast there. WOG Day, you know, usually the ship is all quiet, no work being done, and it was just initiation for everybody. I mean, not for everybody, but the polywogs. I was a wog. That's how I became a shellback during that time. I don't know. It was fun. You know, you get beaten a little bit, but that was the old Navy. We don't do that anymore, or they don't do that anymore. I've been retired for 14 years now. It was a different Navy, and you know, I'm looking back at it. I was the young guy back then. You senior guys made it a real freaking good Navy for us. It was because of you guys, and we did the same. When we were in your guys' shoes, the senior guys on the ship, we did our best to make it good for the next generation. That's something that nobody, nobody will ever take from us. Okay, on to that story. The WOG Day, I mean, that was a bad experience for me. Not because of the initiation itself, but there were so many things that I would see. I mean, I know everybody would be in a costume or some pirate outfit or something going on, you know. But there was a lot. I think there was maximum participation. I mean, the whole crew participated during WOG Day. Most of us, 99.9% participated. But I think there was another 100 or 200% participated, watched over us, enjoyed what we were doing, had fun with us. But nobody's seen or nobody saw except by people like me with a third eye. And I just ignored them. I mean, they were having fun. I wouldn't want to get into trouble with them because that was a whole different Navy back then. But they were there watching over us. The last finale one. Okay. Actually, there's two. I was both of these situations. I was a flight deck shooter. The first one, I was in Cat 4 on the port catwalk. We launched our S3. S3 goes, and I go running back over the foul line and then past the F-18s that were parked there. And because right when after I launched that S3, there was a E2 right behind me. Now the E2, I passed the E2, went behind it, and then all the wind from the turboprops hit me in the back, and I start rolling. I start rolling. I actually rolled over the flight line into the crash and salvage area where there's a shack there, and some guy caught me. So that's one thing I'm thankful for those crash and salvage guys. So I survived that one. Now I was on Cat 1 this time, the first cat, one, two, three, four cats on the ship. We all know. I was on the port side again, launched my S3 from there. And so I was going back. There was a F-18 right behind our S3 that just launched. So I've avoided the intakes for the F-18 and went just under its wing towards its back. It revved up, but it did go after afterburner or military. It just revved up a little bit, like whoom, whoom, or JBDs went up. So of course the JBDs, the jet blast deflectors were right there. So I go behind. One of the JBDs falls down. So the F-18's revving up. It revs up, woof, woof, and it just blows me. And I was heading to the front of the island where the old termite grenades are, and there's a AO racks, weapons racks there, and floating in the air, maybe 2-3 feet up in the air, because the F-18 revved up and blew me. Actually, blew me towards the left. Now I'm levitating. Maybe I was 10 feet, going 20 feet, actually flying through the air, and I see the ocean past the termite grenade area. And I swear, I was supposed to go straight in the water. But two AOs grabbed me while I was in the air. I fell to the deck. It was so high that I rolled, and I got up real quick, and there were no AOs there. Or I thought that they were grabbing weapons, just grabbed me on the way when I was flying in the air, and then when I hit the ground, they left me and they just took their bomb racks. I looked, there was no more bomb racks. So I take a right into the island, go downstairs, 3 flights, go head back to the shop. That was it. Now we went back to I figured it was from G1 or G3, those two AOs. And I was out on the haunch. We pulled in, we were in Yokosuka, and I just decided to get a couple beers or something out in the haunch. And I thought I saw that AO because this AO was in G1 or G3, and he was in a bar. He was a big AO. So I approached him. I said, "Hey man, thanks for catching me that time." And he asked me, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Right by Cat 1, man, when I flew off because the exhaust from the F-18 pushed me back and I was in the air. You guys caught me." And then he said, "Not me, man. I don't know what you're talking about." So I never did find those two AOs that caught me and saved my life on the Indy. Never did. Never did see two AOs that big walking around. Never did. So for me, for me, I know that those two AOs were brothers past. And I thank them too. Because if it wasn't from them, there would be a man overboard. At the least, I would survive. Or the worst, I wouldn't have. Because that was during flight operations. I mean, the boat was churning. So, two AOs. Thanks, guys. In closing, guys, thanks for coming to my spiel. That was it. If you would like to review some of the other videos, you might get a better idea on why I'm doing this. So you're more than welcome to watch the other three videos that I made. And in closing, I would like to leave something with you guys. We have been trained. We know how to train. We have deployed and we have been to battle. There will be, regardless of your belief, one last muster. And every one of us will be there. So you prepare now or you prepare later. It doesn't matter. We're all going to be there anyway. That's it. You know what I'm talking about. Like, share, and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. Thanks very much for coming. I salute each and every one of you guys.